I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me right now. What's happening in the cosmic field between March and September of 2025 is not just another astrological transit. This is a frequency shift that occurs once every 30 years. And if you've been feeling a specific kind of fear lately, a gnawing anxiety that you're being left behind while everyone else seems to be moving forward, you're not imagining it. You're picking up on something real, something that's been building beneath the surface of your consciousness for months now. I know you might think this is just another phase, another challenging period that will pass like all the others. But this time is completely different, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, and more importantly, what you need to do about it right now. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed a particular kind of exhaustion lately? Not the kind that comes from working too hard or sleeping too little, but a soul exhaustion, a feeling that no matter how much you rest, you wake up already tired. Have you felt a tightness in your chest, right in the center, as if something is pressing against your heart chakra, making it hard to take a full breath? Have you found yourself scrolling through social media, watching other people's successes, their announcements, their forward momentum, and feeling something you're almost ashamed to admit, a fear that you've somehow missed your window, that your time has passed, that you're being left behind in a race you didn't even know you were running? If you're nodding right now, if these words are landing in your body with a recognition that feels almost uncomfortable, then you need to understand something crucial. You have already felt it. Your nervous system has been picking up on this cosmic recalibration for weeks, maybe months. Your body knew before your mind could articulate it, and that fear you're feeling, that anxiety about being left behind, it's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something is profoundly right. It's a sign that you're one of the 5 Zodiac signs being called into a complete karmic reset, and your soul is preparing you for the most significant transformation of your life. But here's what most people don't understand about this particular fear. The fear of being left behind is never really about other people's timelines. It's never actually about whether you're moving fast enough or achieving enough or keeping up with some external measure of progress. That fear, when you really trace it back to its source, is always about one thing and one thing only. It's about whether you're living in alignment with your soul's true timeline, or whether you've been trying to force yourself onto a path that was never meant for you in the first place. And right now, between March and September of 2025, the universe is creating a cosmic pressure chamber specifically designed to reveal this misalignment. Not to punish you, not to make you feel inadequate, but to wake you up to the truth of where you actually need to be going. Let me break down what's happening in the energetic field right now, because once you understand the mechanics of this shift, everything will start to make sense. We have Saturn, the planet of structure and karmic lessons, moving through Pisces while simultaneously forming a rare square with Uranus in Gemini. Now, I need you to understand what this means in practical terms, not just astrological jargon. Saturn in Pisces is like a cosmic surgeon performing precision cuts on the illusions you've been living under. Pisces energy is the ocean. It's boundless. It's where all things dissolve and merge. But Saturn brings form to the formless. It brings accountability to dreams. It asks the question that most people are terrified to answer. What have you been pretending not to know? What truth have you been swimming around, avoiding, hoping it would just dissolve if you ignored it long enough? And then we have Uranus in Gemini, which is the lightning bolt of awakening, striking directly into your mental patterns, your communication, your perception of reality itself. Uranus doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It simply reveals what has always been true but hidden. It's the sudden realization, the unexpected insight, the moment when everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down and you can never see things the same way again. When these two forces square each other, when Saturn's pressure meets Uranus's lightning, what you get is a cosmic collision between the old structures you've been clinging to and the new truth that's trying to break through. And for 5 specific zodiac signs, this collision is happening right at the core of their identity, their purpose, their understanding of who they are and what they're here to do. Now, before I tell you which 5 signs are most affected, I want you to understand something about cosmic selection. This isn't random. This isn't the universe playing favorites or punishing certain people. The signs that are being called into this transformation right now are the ones who have been preparing for this moment, whether they knew it consciously or not. They're the ones whose souls signed up for this level of awakening. They're the ones who have been feeling that something has to change, even if they couldn't name what it was. And here's the part that might surprise you. The fear of being left behind that these signs are experiencing. It's not a warning that they're falling behind. It's actually the opposite. It's a signal that they're about to leap forward in a way that will completely redefine their trajectory. But first, they have to be willing to let go of the race they thought they were running. Think about it this way. Imagine you've been training for a marathon, pushing yourself harder and harder, watching other runners pass you, feeling that panic that you're not fast enough, not strong enough, that you're going to be left behind at the finish line. And then suddenly, someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "You're not supposed to be running a marathon. You're supposed to be swimming across an ocean." Everything you've been measuring yourself against, every comparison you've been making, every fear about not keeping up, it's all been based on the wrong race entirely. That's what's happening right now for these 5 signs. The fear of being left behind is actually the universe's way of getting their attention, of making them uncomfortable enough in their current path that they finally stop, look around, and ask the question they've been avoiding. Am I even running in the right direction? And I need to be very clear about something here, because this is where most spiritual teachings get it wrong. This isn't about positive thinking your way out of fear. This isn't about affirming that you're exactly where you need to be and everything is perfect. That's spiritual bypassing, and it's exactly what keeps people stuck in misalignment for years, even decades. No, what's being asked of you right now is much more courageous than that. You're being asked to feel the fear fully, to let it show you where you've been lying to yourself, where you've been performing for an audience that doesn't matter, where you've been chasing a version of success that was never yours to begin with. The fear is not the problem. The fear is the messenger, and it's carrying information you desperately need to hear. So let's talk about the first of the 5 Zodiac signs that are being called into this karmic reckoning, and why the fear they're experiencing right now is actually the beginning of their liberation. The first sign is Virgo, and if you're a Virgo or you have significant Virgo placements in your chart, particularly your sun, moon, or rising, I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, because this is going to explain so much of what you've been feeling. Virgo, you have spent your entire life perfecting yourself. You have been the one who does the work, who shows up, who handles the details that everyone else overlooks. You have been the reliable one, the competent one, the one who can be counted on to get it done right. And somewhere along the way, you internalized a belief that your worth is directly tied to your usefulness, to your productivity, to your ability to serve and fix and improve. And now, right now, you're watching other people succeed in ways that seem effortless. You're seeing people who don't work as hard as you do, who don't pay attention to details the way you do, who don't sacrifice the way you do. And yet they're moving forward, they're getting recognition, they're achieving things, and you're standing there with this crushing fear that despite everything you've done, despite how hard you've tried, you're being left behind. But here's what's really happening. Virgo, the universe is not leaving you behind. The universe is trying to show you that the game you've been playing, the one where your value is determined by how much you can produce and how perfectly you can perform, that game was rigged against you from the start. You were never meant to earn your place through endless self-improvement. You were never meant to prove your worth through service and sacrifice. What's happening between March and September is that Saturn in Pisces is dissolving the structures of perfectionism that have been holding you captive, while Uranus in Gemini is shocking your mental patterns awake to a completely different way of being. You're being called to stop measuring yourself against productivity metrics and start asking a much more radical question. What if you're already enough? What if your worth has nothing to do with what you accomplish? What if the reason you feel left behind is because you're finally ready to step off the hamster wheel entirely and discover who you are when you're not performing? This is terrifying for you, Virgo, because your entire identity has been built on being the one who has it together, who knows what to do, who can fix any problem. But that identity is a cage, and the fear you're feeling right now, that fear of being left behind, it's actually the sound of the cage door opening. You can stay inside where it's familiar, where you know the rules, where you can keep trying to perfect yourself into worthiness. Or you can step out into the unknown and discover that you were never broken in the first place. The action step for you, Virgo, is not to work harder or to find a better system or to optimize yourself more efficiently. The action step is to stop. Literally stop. Stop trying to fix yourself. Stop trying to improve yourself. Stop trying to earn your place. For the next 6 months, every time you feel that fear of being left behind, I want you to pause and ask yourself this question. Left behind from what? What race am I afraid of losing? And who told me I was supposed to be running it? Because here's the truth that's trying to break through to you right now. You're not being left behind. You're being called forward into a completely different paradigm. One where your value is inherent. Where your worth is not up for debate. Where you don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. And yes, that means letting go of the identity you've spent your whole life building. Yes. That means watching other people continue to play the game you're stepping out of. Yes. That means sitting with the discomfort of not knowing who you are when you're not busy fixing and serving and perfecting. But on the other side of that discomfort is a freedom you've never experienced before. A freedom to simply be, to exist without justification, to take up space without earning it. And that freedom, Virgo, that's what you've been searching for all along, even though you thought you were searching for perfection. The second sign that needs to prepare mentally for this cosmic recalibration is Cancer. And if you're a Cancer sun, moon, or rising, what I'm about to tell you is going to feel like someone just turned on the lights in a room you've been sitting in darkness for years. Cancer, your fear of being left behind is wrapped up in something very specific. Something that goes deeper than career success or external achievement. Your fear is about emotional security. It's about belonging. It's about whether the people you've been nurturing, the relationships you've been tending to, the emotional investments you've made, whether any of it actually matters. You've been watching people move on, move forward, move away, and you're standing there wondering if you gave too much, if you stayed too long, if you missed your chance to build something for yourself because you were too busy taking care of everyone else. And here's what makes this particularly painful for you right now. You're not just afraid of being left behind professionally or socially. You're afraid of being emotionally abandoned. You're afraid that all the love you've given, all the care you've provided, all the emotional labor you've performed, that it's going to amount to nothing. That people will take what you've given them and walk away, leaving you alone with nothing to show for all that devotion. But let me tell you what's really happening beneath this fear. Because once you see it, everything changes. The reason you feel like you're being left behind is because you've been building your entire sense of security on external validation. You've been trying to earn love through caretaking. You've been trying to guarantee that people won't leave you by making yourself indispensable to their emotional well-being. And now, the universe is showing you that this strategy doesn't work. Not because you're not good enough at it, but because it was never meant to work in the first place. Saturn in Pisces is dissolving the illusion that you can control other people's choices by being perfect for them. Uranus in Gemini is shocking you awake to the reality that real security doesn't come from being needed. It comes from knowing yourself so deeply that you're okay even when people leave, even when relationships end, even when you're alone. And I know that sounds terrifying to you, Cancer, because your entire identity has been built on connection, on family, on belonging. But what if I told you that the belonging you've been searching for outside yourself has been waiting inside you all along? The action step for you, Cancer, is going to feel counterintuitive. maybe even wrong. I need you to stop taking care of people who haven't asked for your help. I need you to stop anticipating needs before they're expressed. I need you to stop making yourself smaller, quieter, more accommodating in order to keep the peace or maintain connection. For the next 6 months, every time you feel that urge to fix someone's emotional state, to smooth over a conflict, to sacrifice your own needs for someone else's comfort, I want you to pause and ask yourself this question. Am I doing this because it's genuinely needed and wanted? Or am I doing this because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? Because here's the truth that's trying to break through to you. The people who truly love you don't need you to be their emotional caretaker. They don't need you to manage their feelings or solve their problems or make everything okay for them. They want you as you are, messy and imperfect and sometimes needing care yourself. And the people who only value you for what you can do for them. The ones who take your care as an expectation rather than a gift. Those people were always going to leave eventually. Not because you weren't good enough, but because the relationship was transactional from the start, and you just couldn't see it because you were too busy trying to earn their love. You're not being left behind, Cancer. You're being freed from relationships that were never meant to sustain you. And yes, that means there's going to be a period of loneliness. Yes, that means you're going to have to sit with the discomfort of not being needed. Yes. That means you're going to have to learn how to fill your own cup instead of constantly pouring into everyone else's. But on the other side of that loneliness is a kind of connection you've never experienced before. Connection that's based on mutual respect, on genuine reciprocity, on people who see you as a whole person rather than just a source of emotional support. The third sign being called into this transformation is Capricorn. And if you're a Capricorn, you already know what I'm going to say because you've been feeling it in your bones for months now. You've been climbing, Capricorn. You've been working towards something, building towards something, sacrificing for something. And now you're looking around and realizing that the mountain you've been climbing might not be the right mountain at all. Your fear of being left behind is about legacy. It's about whether all the work you've done, all the time you've invested, all the relationships you've sacrificed, whether any of it is going to matter in the end. You're watching younger people achieve things faster, watching people with less experience get opportunities you've been working toward for years, and you're feeling this crushing sense that you've wasted your time, that you've been playing by rules that no longer apply, that the world has changed and left you behind with your outdated strategies and your old-fashioned work ethic. But here's what you need to understand, Capricorn. The reason you feel left behind is not because you're not working hard enough, or because you're not strategic enough, or because you're not ambitious enough. The reason you feel left behind is because you've been building someone else's dream. You've been climbing a mountain that society told you was worth climbing, that your family told you was worth climbing, that your own fear of failure told you was worth climbing. But it was never your mountain. It was never your dream. And now your soul is exhausted from the effort of trying to care about something that doesn't actually matter to you. Saturn in Pisces is asking you to get honest about what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. Not what would make you look successful. Not what would prove to everyone that you made it. What do you actually want? And Uranus in Gemini is showing you that the path to what you actually want looks nothing like the path you've been on. It requires a completely different set of skills. A completely different approach. A completely different definition of success. This is why you feel so disoriented right now, Capricorn. You've spent your whole life being the one who knows the plan, who has the strategy, who can see the path from here to there. But right now, there is no clear path. There is no 5-year plan. There is no guaranteed outcome. There's just this uncomfortable truth that you've been working toward the wrong goal. And now you have to decide whether you're going to keep climbing out of stubbornness and fear, or whether you're going to have the courage to climb back down and start over. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking that starting over means you've wasted all that time, all that effort, all those years. But that's not true. Everything you've learned, every skill you've developed, every challenge you've overcome, all of that comes with you. The only thing you're leaving behind is the destination that was never meant for you in the first place. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from wisdom. You're starting from experience. You're starting from a place of knowing what you don't want, which is just as valuable as knowing what you do want. The action step for you, Capricorn, is to stop measuring your progress against external markers of success. Stop checking how far behind you are compared to other people. Stop calculating how much time you've lost. For the next 6 months, I need you to give yourself permission to explore without a plan. I need you to try things just because they interest you, not because they fit into a career strategy. I need you to have conversations with people who are doing things that fascinate you, even if you can't see how it connects to your current path. Because right now, your job is not to figure out the next mountain to climb. Your job is to remember what it feels like to be curious, to be playful, to be interested in something just for the sake of interest rather than for what it can get you. You're not being left behind, Capricorn. You're being redirected towards something that actually aligns with who you are rather than who you thought you had to be. And yes, that means letting go of the identity you've built as the successful one, the accomplished one, the one who has it all figured out. Yes, that means admitting that you don't know what comes next. Yes, that means being vulnerable in a way you've never allowed yourself to be before. But on the other side of that vulnerability is a version of success that actually feels good, that actually nourishes you, that actually makes you want to get out of bed in the morning instead of just grinding through another day of obligations. The fourth sign that needs to prepare mentally is Libra. And Libra, your fear of being left behind is perhaps the most subtle and the most insidious of all 5 signs, because it's wrapped up in something you've been taught is a virtue. You've been taught that being agreeable is good, that being diplomatic is good, that being able to see all sides is good. And it is good, until it becomes a prison, until it becomes the reason you can't make a decision, until it becomes the reason you're paralyzed while everyone else is moving forward. Your fear right now is that while you've been weighing options, considering perspectives, trying to make the perfect choice that keeps everyone happy, life has passed you by. You're watching people make bold moves, take risks, commit to paths, and you're still sitting there with your pros and cons list, trying to figure out the right answer. And the longer you wait, the more you feel like you've missed your window, like all the good opportunities have been taken, like you're going to be left behind because you couldn't decide fast enough. But here's what's really happening, Libra. The reason you can't decide is not because you're not smart enough or not clear enough or not brave enough. The reason you can't decide is because you've been trying to make decisions that please everyone. And that's an impossible task. You've been trying to find the path that doesn't upset anyone, that doesn't disappoint anyone, that doesn't require you to choose yourself over someone else's expectations. And there is no such path. There never was. Saturn in Pisces is dissolving your illusion that you can keep everyone happy while also living your truth. Uranus in Gemini is shocking you awake to the reality that every real choice requires you to disappoint someone, to let someone down, to prioritize your own needs over someone else's preferences. And that feels like death to you, Libra. Because your entire identity has been built on being the peacemaker, the harmonizer, the one who can make everyone get along. But what if I told you that the harmony you've been creating has been false harmony? What if I told you that by constantly accommodating everyone else, by never taking a strong stand, by always being the flexible one, you've actually been creating resentment, not just in yourself, but in the people around you who can sense that you're not being real with them, that you're performing agreeabilities rather than actually connecting? The action step for you, Libra, is going to feel like the hardest thing you've ever done. I need you to make a decision that you know will upset someone. I need you to state a preference that you know will create conflict. I need you to choose yourself even when it means someone else will be disappointed. For the next 6 months, every time you find yourself trying to see all sides, trying to find the middle ground, trying to make everyone happy, I want you to pause and ask yourself this question. What will I choose if I knew that no matter what I chose, Someone would be upset with me. What would I choose if I gave up trying to control other people's reactions? Because here's the truth that's trying to break through to you. Libra. Real harmony doesn't come from everyone agreeing. Real harmony comes from everyone being honest. It comes from people being able to disagree and still respect each other. It comes from relationships that can handle conflict without falling apart. And the only way to build that kind of harmony is to stop performing agreement and start practicing authenticity. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it creates tension. Even when people don't like what you have to say. You're not being left behind because you can't make decisions. Libra. You're being held back because you're trying to make decisions that don't exist. You're trying to find the path that satisfies everyone. And that path is a mirage. The moment you accept that any real choice will disappoint someone. The moment you give yourself permission to prioritize your own truth over other people's comfort. That's the moment you'll finally be able to move forward. And yes, some people will be upset. Yes, some relationships will change. Yes, you'll have to sit with the discomfort of not being everyone's favorite person anymore. But on the other side of that discomfort is a life that's actually yours. Relationships that are based on truth rather than performance. And a sense of self that doesn't require constant external validation to exist. The fifth and final sign that's being called into this profound transformation is Pisces. And Pisces, if you're reading this, I need you to understand that what you're experiencing right now is not confusion. It's not weakness. It's not evidence that you're somehow failing at life. What you're experiencing is a complete dismantling of the false self you've been performing for everyone else. And your soul is exhausted from the effort of pretending to be someone you're not. Your fear of being left behind is different from the other signs because it's not really about external achievement or social comparison. Your fear is much more existential than that. You're afraid that you've spent so much time adapting to other people's realities, absorbing other people's emotions, becoming what other people needed you to be, that you've lost track of who you actually are. And now you're watching people who seem to have a clear sense of identity, a solid sense of purpose, a defined sense of direction. And you're standing there feeling like you're dissolving, like you're disappearing. Like you're being left behind because you can't even figure out who you are, let alone where you're going. But here's what you need to understand. Pisces. The reason you feel like you're dissolving is because you are dissolving. But not in the way you think. You're not losing yourself. You're losing the accumulated layers of other people's projections, other people's expectations, other people's needs that you've been carrying around like they were your own. You're a sponge. Pisces. You absorb everything. And for years, maybe decades, you've been absorbing everyone else's reality until you couldn't tell the difference between what you actually feel and what you've picked up from the people around you. And now, with Saturn in your sign, with this cosmic pressure intensifying everything, all of those absorbed identities are being squeezed out of you. All of those false selves are being dissolved. And what's left? What's emerging from underneath all those layers is the real you. The you that exists independent of other people's needs. The you that has preferences and boundaries and desires that have nothing to do with making other people comfortable. And that real you is terrifying because you've never met them before. You've been too busy being everyone else. This is why you feel so lost right now. Pisces. This is why you feel like you're being left behind while everyone else seems to know where they're going. Because they're still operating from their false selves, from their conditioned identities, from their socialized personas. And you can't do that anymore. Your soul won't let you. Every time you try to put on one of those old masks, every time you try to be what someone else needs, your body rebels. You get exhausted. You get sick. You get overwhelmed. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop performing. Uranus in Gemini is bringing you sudden insights about all the ways you've been lying to yourself. All the ways you've been pretending to want things you don't actually want. All the ways you've been going along with other people's plans because you couldn't access your own truth clearly enough to articulate it. And these insights are coming fast. They're coming hard. And they're completely reorganizing your understanding of your entire life up until this point. the action step for you, Pisces, is going to require more courage than anything you've ever done. Because I'm going to ask you to do something that goes against every instinct you have. I need you to stop helping people. I need you to stop being available for everyone's emotional emergencies. I need you to stop absorbing other people's pain and trying to transmute it for them. For the next 6 months. Every time someone comes to you with a problem, every time someone needs emotional support, every time someone wants you to be their therapist or their healer or their savior, I want you to say no. Not because you don't care, not because you're being selfish, but because you need to create enough space and silence and emptiness in your life that you can finally hear your own voice underneath all the noise you've been carrying. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that if you stop being helpful, if you stop being available, if you stop being the compassionate one, then people won't need you anymore. Then people will leave. Then you'll be alone. And you're right. Some people will leave. The people who were only in your life because of what you could do for them. The people who saw you as a resource rather than a person. The people who never bothered to ask what you needed because you were always too busy meeting their needs. Those people will absolutely leave. And that's not a loss. Pisces, that's a liberation. Because on the other side of that departure, on the other side of that emptiness, on the other side of that silence fight, you're going to discover something you've been searching for your entire life. You're going to discover that you exist. Not as a reflection of other people. Not as a response to other people's needs. Not as a shapeshifter who becomes whatever the situation requires. But as a solid, real, autonomous being with your own desires, your own boundaries, your own path. And that discovery is going to change everything. You're not being left behind. Pisces, you're being called home to yourself. And yes, that means letting go of your identity as the helper, the healer, the compassionate one. Yes, that means disappointing people who have come to expect your constant availability. That means sitting with the discomfort of not knowing who you are when you're not busy saving everyone else. But on the other side of that discomfort is a clarity you've never experienced before. A sense of self that doesn't require constant external validation. And a life that's actually yours rather than a collection of other people's needs that you've been trying to meet. Now, I want to address something that all 5 of these signs have in common. Because this is crucial to understanding why this particular fear of being left behind is actually a gift rather than a curse. All 5 of you, Virgo, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Pisces, you have been operating from a fundamental misunderstanding about how life works. You have been believing that if you just do the right things, if you just work hard enough, if you just care enough, if you just plan well enough, if you just help enough, then you'll be safe, then you'll be secure, then you'll be valued, then you'll be loved, then you'll be successful. But that's not how life works. That's not how the universe works. And right now, between March and September of 2025, the universe is systematically dismantling that illusion for all 5 of you. Not to punish you, not to make you suffer, but to free you from a game you were never meant to win. Because the game itself was rigged from the start. The fear of being left behind is your soul's way of telling you that you've been running in the wrong direction. It's not a sign that you need to run faster. It's not a sign that you need to try harder. It's a sign that you need to stop running entirely and ask yourself a question you've been avoiding for years. Maybe your entire life. What am I actually running toward? And more importantly, who told me I was supposed to be running in the first place? Because here's the truth that all 5 of you need to hear right now. You are not in a race. You never were. The people you think are ahead of you, they're not ahead of you. They're just on a different path, and the path they're on might look impressive from the outside. It might look successful. It might look like they've got it all figured out. But that doesn't mean it's the right path for you. In fact, the very thing that makes you feel left behind, that sense that you can't keep up with everyone else's pace, that's actually evidence that you're finally starting to listen to your own rhythm instead of trying to match everyone else's tempo. This is what the cosmic recalibration is really about. It's about each of you discovering that the timeline you've been trying to follow was never yours to begin with. It was your parents' timeline, or society's timeline, or social media's timeline, or your fear's timeline. But it was never your soul's timeline. And your soul has its own pace, its own rhythm, its own way of unfolding that has nothing to do with anyone else's journey. So when you feel that fear of being left behind, when you feel that panic that everyone else is moving forward and you're standing still, I want you to pause and recognize that feeling for what it really is. It's not evidence that you're failing. It's evidence that you're finally waking up to the fact that you've been measuring yourself against the wrong metrics. You've been trying to win a game that was never meant for you. You've been trying to reach a destination that wouldn't satisfy you even if you got there. And now, right now, you have a choice. You can keep running. You can keep trying to catch up. You can keep pushing yourself to match everyone else's pace, to meet everyone else's expectations, to achieve everyone else's definition of success. And if you make that choice, you'll spend the rest of your life feeling like you're behind, like you're not enough, like you're missing something that everyone else seems to have figured out. Or you can make a different choice. You can stop running. You can step off the track entirely. You can give yourself permission to move at your own pace, to follow your own path, to define success on your own terms. And if you make that choice, if you have the courage to trust your own rhythm instead of trying to match everyone else's, then what you're going to discover is that you were never behind in the first place. You were exactly where you needed to be all along. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy looking at everyone else's journey instead of honoring your own. This is the real message of this cosmic recalibration. This is what Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Gemini are trying to show you. You are not being left behind. You are being called forward into a completely different paradigm. One where your worth is not determined by how fast you move or how much you achieve or how well you perform. Your worth is inherent. Your value is not up for debate. Your timeline is sacred. And the moment you stop trying to prove yourself, the moment you stop trying to keep up, the moment you stop trying to be anything other than exactly who you are, that's the moment everything changes. So here's what I want you to do for the next 6 months. Every single time you feel that fear of being left behind, every time you catch yourself comparing your progress to someone else's, every time you start to panic that you're not moving fast enough or achieving enough or becoming enough, I want you to stop and ask yourself